Welcome to another episode of the Flag Stays Down podcast. After a disappointing 1-0 loss to Aston Villa at home, boys. Big sigh, but boys are together. Collins, how are we feeling tonight? We're doing the switch up a little bit. I'm taking over the hosting reins, so I get to start this thing off, and I get to ask you, how was your weekend, Ben?
It's been great. Yesterday, I went up to Warrens, Wisconsin, for the world's largest cranberry festival. So that was pretty good. It had a lot of cranberry juice and cranberry wine and cranberry vodka and good stuff. And came home and yeah, had to watch shitty Chelsea game this morning, and my son's team gets stomped later in the afternoon. So nice roller coaster of a weekend. Matt, how are you doing?
Yeah, a little tired. Uh, had I had parent duty today and all weekend and Friday night. So the wife was working over the weekend, so it was just me and the little man. Love him to death, but that does get exhausting quick. So, but yeah, we're here. Rough day of sports, at least for the Chelsea faithful, but Green Bay managed to pull out a victory somehow. So that was pretty exciting. But yeah, all in all, we're here. That's about what I can say. Parks, what about you? How's your weekend been?
I did fucking nothing all weekend long. It was glorious. My wife was traveling back to Minnesota. She put on her annual gala fundraiser event for her nonprofit, and so she left on Friday, and she comes back Tuesday. And so whole weekend's been just me and the boys, me and the two dogs, and we're just literally hanging out, not doing much. So today was the picture perfect kind of a day where I watched Chelsea. I watched the Japanese Grand Prix right after the Chelsea match. I turned on the Packer game, and then I went and played pinball. You can't draw it up any better for me. I got to play the new Venom machine that Stern just released, and get to try that out. And I'm still kind of exploring the pinball scene out in Colorado. So got to go to a new spot that had like 26 games, and they all played really well, and it was fun to get out of the house and just kind of go explore downtown Denver. So it was it was a great weekend. I didn't get anything done, which is just perfect for me. I get a lot done throughout the week. I got stuff done last weekend. I may have done a load or two of laundry, and that's about it, man. So it's glorious. Boys, we've got kind of a grab bag episode. I've got a lot of stuff written down. I have no idea how much we'll get to it. I have no idea how much anyone really has to say about all this, but topics include how terrible are we? We've got repping mishaps slash Malagusto's red card. How do we get off the schneid? How do we score? It's been 3 games since we've scored. Some grab bag of players: Gallagher, Palmer, Sanchez, Mudryk. Thinking forward to Malagusto out with the red card. So who's going to play right back? How do we shift? And how do we sort of reconfigure, because we're not deep at that position, considering we never had a backup for Reese, and now the backup for Reese is out. And I wrote down Jackson's bullshit, because he likes to collect cards as well. So Collins, we'll start with you. What was your overall impression of the game? What went wrong? How did we get to be sitting here with a loss like we did today?
I thought it was odd to start that we were just kind of giving possession to Villa early on. All season we've seen, at least at the start of games, a little bit of a Gegenpress style where we're just going at them, and we kind of laid off. We let Emi Martinez dictate the pace of play, slowed things down, frustrated us, and it just built and built and built as the match went on. And we saw a little bit of frustration with Malagusto in the red card. It was just a kind of underwhelming day, and I don't know why we do that against the team that just played 3 days ago, halfway across Europe, and honestly has a squad depth of, maybe 15 consistent first team players. So it just struck me as an odd way to start the day.
I mean, what went wrong? I don't know. We showed up. Maybe that's where it all went wrong. It's I don't even know anymore. There's so many issues, and we seem to almost outdo ourselves game to game. So I don't know if we're doing that on purpose or what, but the vibe that I got from this whole thing was a lot of times it seemed like it was kind of everybody for themselves. Specifically when we talk about like the attack, it's more everybody for themselves, right? We've always said, okay, don't shoot, or we've said shoot, don't pass. Now they went a full 180. They're trying to shoot all the time. I remember a couple opportunities that we had, even though they might have been offsides, we didn't make the pass. Specifically, the 2v1 with, I think, Raz and Jackson, which actually happened twice. Like, how it is the classic FIFA goal. It's just something's not right. I don't know if it's team, tactics, what it could be any number of things, but it seems like we are continuing to trend in the wrong direction every single week.
That 2v goalie situation is incredibly frustrating. Even with the offside call, you want to see your team put it away, man. I mean, it's still so frustrating. And like, we had a goal called back, right? Axel Disase put the ball in the back of the net off a header, and it got called back. But I thought that was positive. It's guys at least doing the right thing. And Disase was almost about to be our second leading scorer, or tied for our leading scorer with two, which is a bit pathetic. But Matt, I like what you said about the every man for himself, because when I watch Mudryk play, that's kind of the vibe I get from him. Even though he does look for those searching balls, he had that really great ball to Jackson. When he takes people on, like the overlap comes, right? Levi kind of comes and he doesn't use it. He doesn't like to play with the overlap. He usually kind of does a move and goes in on his right and tries to make something happen. And for a lot of it, he got double teamed and triple teamed, and people just kind of surrounded him. But the guys, his touch is about as heavy as they come. He's like a Ferrari that's already in third gear. He just goes, and like that first touch is so explosive that it's going in that direction, right? You can't zigzag out of that. It's a heavy, big touch, and he wants to run onto it. And in the Premier League, you just don't have that space. The times he was successful, he did that down the left flank and was able to get crosses into the box. So I think he needs to learn how to play with the overlap and try to like work with a Levi Colwell or Ben Chilwell to work some 1-2s to get him free down that left side, because I feel like if he can play off of people and just sprint, and then people can play that ball into his path, like, holy shit. I mean, I don't know what his first touch is going to do once he gets on the end of it, but holy shit, it can really explode off of that. So he's one that highlights that everyone for themselves, everyone fighting to get their own goal.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And we kind of touched on it over the last couple episodes, but I think that is the key, is pairing with that overlap. And somebody who can put in a dangerous ball like a Chilwell, right? But then we see, Pochettino kind of with the counter to that, like, well, they're getting too far forward, so they're kind of messing with the attack. I think that whole thing just needs to mesh a little bit, especially when you would have like Chilwell playing out of position and trying to do things as a left winger when he's definitely not. I think it's just trying to figure out that left side. But I thought that comparatively to everybody else, he had a good day.
I mean, he created basically all of our chances, right? See, Jackson, yeah, offsides on a couple of them. I can't remember the other one, but it was like very clear chance on goal that we either scuffed or Martinez saved or something. But I'm okay with Mudryk, kind of taking that, it's all about me mentality. We don't really have that in this squad, and we need somebody who's not going to be afraid to hold on to the ball a little bit longer, make that attack down the wing, because it changes up what we have. You can't show the exact same thing all the time on all fronts, right, middle, and left. You got to be able to mix that up. So I mean, even if things aren't working down that left like they weren't today, but he was pinning back Matty Cash, maybe it's something where mid-game or for 10 minutes you switch Sterling and Mudryk down either side. I think because today it wasn't necessarily successful doesn't mean that in future games it can't be. I don't think it's something we can give up on right now with him.
That's a good point, Collins. And the difference for me was, like, I would see balls go to Caicedo, who's playing on the right side, and Caicedo would find Malo Gusto before he would find Sterling, and then Gusto would feed Sterling, and that's how that whole right would work. Conor Gallagher, though, would not try to find Levi. It was very, very different. And so I almost think they're too different. Like, they're too different of a look, and it's so drastic that I don't know if our team really understands how to play with it yet. Just because it doesn't have to be duplicated, but I don't know. It seems not working 100% right now. But I agree with you. It doesn't have to work. It didn't have to work today for it to prove to be working in the future. Should we talk about the ref?
Yes.
Two things come to mind. The stoppage time in the first half was a complete farce, and then the more debate worthy topic, which is the red card. Matt, what do you make of that red card? Clear to you? What do you think? What do you think was going through the mind when he approached that VAR booth?
Well, the first thing that pissed me off was the still shot that was on the screen. We've been through that before, and I hate that they showed the still. And he went back and looked at it like live about 5 or 6 times. It didn't look bad live. In my estimation, he was coming through. He had got the ball. He caught it with his heel, so the rest of his foot kept going, and that's when I think Digne had planted a little bit or tried to stop, whatever you want to call it. In slow motion, yeah, it's ugly. I get it. I think a yellow would have been fair. To see it go straight red, I think was harsh, but at the same time, with this official, who the hell knows? I think we were all kind of assuming it was going to be a red because this official clearly had no idea what was going on for majority of the match or how to handle a match. So he was waiting on VAR to be like, okay, did I make the right call, or do I have to go to the screen and change it? That's almost what it seemed like. And we knew as soon as it was taking a long time, it was going to be a red card. I don't think it was a red. I think it would have been a solid yellow.
Yeah, I agree. I think a yellow would have been fair, which is what the original foul was, right? Because Matt, like you said, Gusto got ball. Digne then, I'd say, came into the picture. He was already in the picture, but I think it was just the follow through, and it was the velocity of that follow through, the aggression in it, and with an inexperienced official, you're going to get some of that, but that is what VAR is supposed to be for, right? To double check the work. Yeah, I had no faith in this officiating crew. We do have a minimum of 5 minutes to talk about this crew, but we're at 3 right now, so we're just gonna cut it.
I don't know how that's allowed. I thought like minimum of meant minimum of. I didn't think that there was judgment in that, right? I thought like you can add on per your judgment. If you've had stoppages that are in excess of what happened, I thought minimum meant minimum, like minimum, right? Minimum, that word, at least.
The understanding that I got from the broadcasters was there was a confusion between the amount of time that was relayed to the fourth official. So it was supposed to be 2 minutes, but the fourth official put up 3 minutes instead. That's at least what they said in commentary. I don't believe that. If anything, it should have been at least 4 minutes with the amount of time it took Emi Martinez to take the last kick, among the other 5 minutes he was wasting and still not carded, even though you would think as a first-year official with this new rule, you'd want to enforce the rule, right? You'd want to do things as they're written out. Nah, John McGinn twice, right? Collins, I think you brought up that tweet or that X, whatever you want to call it. He signaled for a yellow card on 2 separate occasions. We've seen Nico Jackson get 2 yellows for that same exact thing and nothing. I don't like the fact that they started off the Premier League early, right away, by enforcing these rules. Time wasting, boom, yellow. Kicking a ball out of bounds, yellow. Like, it was set, like that's going to happen. Now it's all subjective. So it depends on who you have that day. There needs to be more consistency. This guy, I hope we never have him again, but I guarantee you we're going to have him at least 7-8 more times.
Doesn't seem like it, right? And the rules that they like to enforce, right? It feels like targeting in the NFL and college football, right? Where they're trying to make an example to make the game safer. And these bang bang plays happen, and it's a split second, right? And you guys mentioned you got the ball. I agree. And the commentator said that he left the ground. He got his ankle. I mean, he got off the ground maybe 6 inches. It wasn't like a knee. It wasn't it wasn't reckless. It wasn't. It seems like the result of what happened is the confirmation bias of the red card. Whereas if no one's there, it's not a dangerous play. It's not a dangerous tackle. It's just the fact that he caught his ankle, which is unfortunate. And, it's not applauded, but it's a clean tackle. Like he won ball and he got there and yeah, if yellow at worst to me. And so, yeah, I get sick and tired of when people like to enforce rules and when not. And just like you said, Matt, the inconsistency. And I hate to bring up the Chelsea agenda, but it feels like we don't get those breaks. It still feels like that, and it's tough to stomach in a match like this where I don't think we deserve to win. It's still hard to watch.
And let's also, just as a side, the Nico Jackson yellow. I'm torn on that. I think Nico should know better in that scenario, that you have an official who's very inexperienced and don't give him a chance to even make a decision on it. But at the same time, he stood over it, he turned his back, and then that's when Emi just went and blasted it. And I remember, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, Raul Jimenez for Wolverhampton got 2 yellows in the span of like 40 seconds. One for being in front of or I can't remember if he was blocking the ball or if he's the one that kicked it. But like, it's just so weird to see these correlations and how, 1 year it's like this, next year it's like this, and the difference. Like if he's standing face on and he sees it coming and he still stands there, I get that. He turned his back. Emi Martinez is a shithead. We knew what he was going to do. He did it, and he made the official make a decision, and it's another stupid yellow for Nico.
Yeah, if this was his first yellow, I would give him the benefit of the doubt. He no longer has earned my good graces in that department, because he is proven to do shithead things, and so he's going to get shithead calls made against him. and he was jawing with him. It's not like the play just ended and he turned around. He was jawing with him and whatnot, and then he kind of hung out there, and then he turned around. I, it, yeah, it's the right call. I mean, he was there, and he shouldn't have been there, and he was hanging out longer than he should have. So I think it's the right call. It's unfortunate for him, and I just hope that I hope he learns the lesson, and I hope that he matures himself a little bit more in this department, because we can't we can't afford him getting yellow cards with his mouth. I'd much rather him get it with his legs. You know, Matt, you were joking about Conor Gallagher not picking up a yellow, which was the miracle of the day, right? I at least I appreciate Connor's yellows because he does something with them. He makes someone feel a tackle. He tracks back. He stops a play from developing further. At least we get something out of it. Whereas Nico, it's just it seems petty. It seems childish. I'm running out of patience with him in a couple of departments, and that's definitely one of them.
See, but that's how you learn. He's what, 22? He's been a professional at the upper division for I think a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. The good of this is that it's, oh, okay, you got punished. Now you don't get to play. And this season's already written off. I hate to do that, however many weeks in, but we're not doing anything this year. So good. Let him grow. Let him mature through these punishments.
See, I like that statement because I think everyone needs to grow. Our average age is like 22, 23 years old. So a lot of our players need growth. And that's why I saw a tweet that just said, like, this investment in the youth has gone horribly wrong. And I was like, really? After 6 weeks, it's gone horribly wrong. Judge it in 3 years. Like, it's not supposed to go perfectly correct in week 1, week 2, week 3. It's an investment in the future. Literally. Like, it's just, you can't evaluate it this year. You can't know if it's going to be a good investment yet. It just hasn't paid off yet. So to say it's a horrible investment in like the Enzos of the world and the Nico Jacksons and the Mikhail Mudriks, we don't know yet. Unfortunately, we don't know.
Yeah, and I think, now that you bring that up, they always, all the commentators talk about how much money we've spent, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we've splashed a lot of money on 3 players. A lot of money. But majority of that investment is in youth and players that we really don't see a lot of, or that we don't really, or that are out on loan or something like that, or that are still being developed and stuff like that. Yeah, 3 big name or big money signings. I get that. I mean, Enzo's already kind of proved his worth. Caicedo, give him a little bit more time. He's obviously just transferred. Mudryk, we're still kind of trying to figure him out and stuff like that, but we know that the talent is there. They're all young. Give them some time. But I think our big money moves are overall paying off pretty well. And we'll see what the other small ones that make up the rest of that $1 billion investment. We just got to give it time and see what happens.
Gotta treat this almost as like the NBA or the MLB, which I don't think Premier League fans are necessarily used to if they're not from America. But you draft and you get those young players, and then it takes a couple of years, 2-3 years for them to kind of hit their stride, kind of get into what you would call the start of their prime, and that's when the winning starts. And it just sucks that it's happening to our club. I wish we could fast forward, but it's something we got to be patient through, I guess.
Arsenal had a couple of mid seasons when Mikel Arteta took over, and it's paid off. We talked about that a lot last year. They were able to challenge City for the title, and they look decent again this year, right? And they've invested in those players, and it's paid off. And but it doesn't look good when you're baking the cake, right? It looks ugly. It looks like shit, and you're tasting the cake, and it's just fucking flour. It's not good. It's not fun. Sorry for the bad analogy. But I did want to bring this up, guys. I was a listener of last week's pod because I was traveling for work. Thank you for carrying the torch without me. But as a listener, I found myself agreeing with a lot of things and then finding myself going, no, what are you guys talking about? I wish I could debate this with you in real time. So I get to do that now. First, on the good side, Collins brought up the number 6 position and referenced it to a middle blocker. That is the single greatest thing you have said on this podcast. That was my favorite thing because it finally clicked to me why me and you appreciate that position and Matt, the outside hitter, does not. The defensive, like, clean up the scraps, do the dirty work kind of offensive lineman type. That's usually the reference we make on it. But the middle blocker reference hit home with me, man. That was grade A and spot on. Thank you for that. And I applaud you for that one. The part I had a problem with is I don't know where the narrative of our defense is great came from, but I don't agree with it. And I was looking up some stats and I was looking at the Bournemouth match especially, and my gut was like, they're have too much of the possession, they're creating too many chances, they have too many touches in our box, and they're doing too much to us. They're forcing too much of the issue, and our defense had a very much a bend not break in that match. It was a 0-0 draw, which I was fine with, but nowhere did I think our defense played great. Sanchez has had a couple good games, and so our last stop or our last defense was great, but their XG was 1.25 against us, and they had like 13 shots against us. And for Bournemouth, a very mid to lower third club, that's not good enough. If that's City, if that's Liverpool, if that's Spurs, if that's Arsenal, if that's Brighton, if that's Fulham, just off the top of my head, they're putting in 3, 4, 5 against us with the same performance. And that's where I don't think this is good enough for us. I think our defense has played against not very good teams so far this year, which has made us look better than we are. That's my 2 cents on it. You guys can debate it if you want. You can retort if you want, or just take it as is. But that's how I see it, and I think it's going to get exposed when the brutal part of our schedule kind of comes up.
But I think the defense itself, the back four, is fine. You look at the goals conceded early in the season. The 2 goals were very clearly on Sanchez, right? And since then, we've conceded 4. I think they do a great job tracking back. They do a great job closing gaps. I think the problem is with the midfield defensively. The defense can stop the opportunities. I think we've given up like the 3rd least amount of shots or 4th least amount of shots, something like that, in the Premier League. That's on that back 4. The midfield is the one that's causing the turnovers, the errant passes that allow these opposing teams to get on the break. And, I don't necessarily blame that on anyone in particular in the midfield. I think it's a midfield that hasn't played together more than just a couple games. So I think that'll come. But I think the defense as a unit has been great.
Collins, this is the first time that we are going to wholeheartedly agree, because I was going to make the exact same point. The back 4 is good. It's the midfield that causes the mistakes that the back 4 have done. I would say a good job at least making things difficult. Do they score? Yes, but they at least make things difficult. The one that comes to mind, it was, I can't remember what it was, but I think it was West Ham, the Mikel Antonio goal. We were there. It just went between legs, and Sanchez should have stopped it, or at least had a chance to, and just didn't. Some of them were on Sanchez. Like, we're at least putting ourselves in positions to make things difficult, even when there are interceptions from errant passes in the midfield. So I completely agree. I think it is a midfield issue. And I think that, to me, that goes back to my point about we don't always know who's playing where, right? You have that revolving door of Enzo, Gallagher, and Caicedo, who seem to switch almost every single possession. Who's where? Who's the 6? Are we playing 2 6s? Like, who's doing what? So I think that causes a lot of confusion, and then the back four has to do their best to pick up where they can. So I would say that the back four is good from a defensive perspective. If we're including the midfield, then I would say we have a lot of work to do.
It's fair. I think we're gonna get tested, man. I think we're gonna be under a lot of pressure, because when we play teams that are going to have more than 50% of the possession, we're gonna be under a lot of stress. And whether it's just the back four or the full defensive unit, I think we're gonna struggle a lot, because we're gonna face a lot more better shots, a lot more high quality shots. The XGs are gonna go up for our opponents, and they're gonna score more goals. I just think, like, I don't remember what the XG was today, but I think it was over 1 for them today, and over 1 for Bournemouth. That's just not acceptable. I don't see how that number isn't like a half. They should have a couple of like half chances. That's about it to me. Speaking of defense, we have a defensive issue ahead of us, where our right back Malo Gusto, who we've applauded his defense, he picked up a red card, which means he has to face this suspension, and our dear captain Reece James is still out on injury. Boys, what do you think? What do you think we do? Some options include back three, back four with all center backs if we can. Oops, all center backs edition. What do you think? What do you think Mr. Pochettino pulls out of his magic hat?
I think this kind of forces Chilwell back into the starting 11, or let's see, it's going to be first Brighton, right, and then Premier League after that. So maybe Cucurella gets a go against Brighton, just because the script writers wanted it that way. But I think it forces Chilwell back on the left. I didn't mind Disasi on the right. He looked decent going forward, but he doesn't have the speed to get back. We got torched on that a couple times. So I kind of think that's what you do. And then, you let Disasi kind of go forward on a limited basis.
Back four, though. So it would be Disasi on the right, and then Chills or Cucurella on the left.
Yep. And then, Colwell and Silva in the middle. Maybe throw Bashir Humphreys out there midweek here. But yeah, no, that'd be my back four.
When does Badiashile come back? Any idea?
Man, I feel like they've been saying, in a week or so for good 4 weeks. The last I saw is that he'd be ready sometime in this stretch of 3 games, with today's loss included. So
yeah,
either Brighton or what is it, Burnley next?
It's Fulham after that.
Fulham.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't hate that. I think so Disasi on the right, and that'll be interesting. I think the other kind of option is moving Colwell out to the right, and then letting a traditional left back play left back, likely Chilwell. But I like, for the memes, I like Cucurella playing against his former club. That'd be funny. But Brighton's having a good season, so it'll be interesting, because that has been a strength of ours, or at least not a super weakness of ours, and we'll see how we kind of shift out of it. Matt, any 2 cents on that?
I have an idea. This being a cup game, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's gonna be Colwell as the right back, Ian Madsen as your left back, and Chills is going to be the left wing. That's what I see happening. I think Pochettino is going to bring on Mudryk as a sub for Chilwell. And then Cucurella would be the left back replacement for Madsen. I think Madsen deserves some match time. He's gotten a little bit so far this season, but I think he deserves a fair trot out. And I prefer Madsen over Cucurella. So that's just my own personal opinion, and I want to see it happen. So that's how I expect us to go against Brighton.
It would be nice to have like a Lewis Hall or a Christian Pulisic or a Ruben Loftus-Cheek, someone at least that we can throw back, in those positions. We've had some of those Swiss Army type players, and great call out, Matt. I think Ian Matson is someone I forget about on a daily basis, but is someone that can play a lot of different positions for us. So kind of in the pinch of a red card can be serviceable. It's a good call out.
Another dark horse would be Leslie.
What about Connor?
No, I don't think. I think he would get 2 yellows in the first half if he played right back.
Doesn't he kind of fit the mold though of a Chelsea right back? Is aggressive in his tackles, runs his ass off, and not afraid to get forward and attack?
Would be a hell of a person on the overlap to put balls in the box. He's got pace. He can get back. I've heard worse ideas.
It would be. I wouldn't hate it. I don't think Pochettino will pull the trigger on it because I think he wants Connor in the middle too much. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. It's very intriguing.
And I like Leslie in the middle. I think he's I don't want to see him getting up and down as much. I think he's better when he's kind of stable in his positioning. And I think he's kind of calm on the ball and provides that presence. I think he's a body that fits well in the middle. So hey, we may have just workshopped ourselves a lineup, boys. It's now whether or not we get a win is a completely different story because we still have to score goals. I don't know if you guys knew that. Got to score to win.
Change this year? Oh,
just brand new.
Okay.
The game is hundreds of years old, brand new this year.
Got
it. we play Brighton next. At least that one can go to penalties, right? That can't end 0-0. But
who takes
how
our penalties?
Great question. How do we score? That's my first question. We can talk about who lines up and takes 5 penalties. That's another fun debate. But who scores and how do we score? Someone tell me what our next goal is going to look like, and how are we getting there?
It's going to be something bullshit. It's going to take a weird deflection and loop over the keeper, or go off the keeper's gloves or through the legs. It's going to be something stupid, and we're not going to be able to replicate it.
Who scores it?
Thiago Silva.
I'm going to say that we actually don't score a goal. It's an own goal. That's how we score our next goal.
I like it. Mine is the guy we were just talking about. I think Conor Gallagher gets us off the schneid. I think, and it's a deflected goal. It's not clean. It's through the middle. Likely comes out on like a corner kick, second ball type deal, and it gets it finds its way to the back, oddly enough. So I think he gets us off there.
A lot of confidence from all 3 of us.
Well, wait, hold on. I'm just now listening to what you were saying. Are you talking about oh no, I got both ears mixed up. Sorry. I was gonna say a Connor own goal.
Throw it on the table.
That's probably the most likely scenario. But we're not counting it. We're counting it pro Chelsea +1 goals for us. Let's use the lineup that went out today, just for argument's sake. If this lineup that went out today goes to penalties, who are you guys having take our penalties? I know it's
Hyundai Palisade versus Ford Explorer.
So 2 I can think of right away. Thiago Silva and Axel Disasi. I'll take those 2 right off the bat.
I think Chills ended the game. I think he's definitely in that conversation. So defenders only, right?
Cole Palmer. He seems like he'd be a confident guy at penalty spot.
He's the very interesting one for me. I think my gut says yes, but then at the same time, I don't know if he's had enough like experience, and I think he'd get shaken really quick if he missed one.
I feel like that can be said for how he's playing at Chelsea right now. Does he have that experience in the Premier League? Not so much. But kind of like what I was saying earlier with Jackson and with Mudryk, is that it's all a learning experience. And so, why not let Palmer go out there, take penalties, maybe get a start, let him grow.
Do you let Broya take one?
No, I don't trust our number nines to to put one home at the moment.
Connor?
I trust our midfielders about as much as I trust our attackers to score a goal right now. So
Bobby Sanchez?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
it's not off the table. Raz, maybe another one, but
yeah, I'm looking at people that
experienced.
I'm looking at the people that ended the game, right? So we have Cole Palmer, Ben Chilwell, Leslie, Broya, Sterling, Gallagher, Caicedo was off. Levi Colwell, Axel Disase, Thiago Silva, and Robert Sanchez.
Yeah, I think Disassi's got to be your anchor. I think he's the surest bet you have.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I would go not in order, but I would go with Chills, Thiago Silva, Disasi. I would go Raz and Palmer. Palmer as the two.
I'd probably put Gallagher for Palmer, but otherwise, I think I agree with you.
Yeah, I'd put Robert Sanchez instead of Thiago Silva, but otherwise, I'm there with you.
To lead it off, right? Just to.
Oh yeah, I mean Todd Bowley's just out here playing FIFA, right? So might as well.
If you want Romelu Lukaku to be a defender, it's fine. You can do that stuff, right? Shout out to Aiden. I don't want to see it go to penalties. I just I have a very pessimistic view of our team right now, just in the sense of we can't buy a goal. The game, I think Raz got as physically close to scoring a goal as possible last game with that free kick that was about a millimeter from going over the line, which is just heartbreaking. But the good chances we have get called back. We put the ball in the net, it's offside, and then can't take our chances. And Nico's been the kind of the criminal offender in that department for me.
The Senegalese Kai Havertz.
Kai Havertz or Timo Werner?
Pick one. Pick a German. Your call.
The frustrating thing is prior we've been pretty good about not being offside a lot, and that happened a lot today, or happened more than usual today. So that's where Timo and Kai both share some blame. I think Timo is probably a worse offender. So you had the offsideness of Timo Werner and the finishing of Kai, who I think officially became 007. I think he signed up with MI6, got his badge, and off to save the world, right, boys?
So proud.
Mason Mount is next.
Mason Mount stopped traveling with the team. I think he was hurt. He didn't play midweek, and he wasn't on the roster at all midweek, and he wasn't on the roster again yesterday or today or whenever they played net last. So I think he's coming back from injury, but I know both fan bases. I told you guys I had dinner with a French underwriter, who is an Arsenal fan, and we both laughed at Kai Havertz just about how terrible he was. And I said something about Jorginho too, because Jorginho isn't playing a lot either. Definitely has a not a big role on that team, but he was like, no, I like Jorginho. He's at least an older voice in the locker room and positive, and brings something else to the squad. Whereas Kai, he had nothing nice to say. I was like, join the club.
The one thing that I will say, yes, there were. I noticed it too. There were a lot more offsides calls today. They were like really close. Some of them didn't even look like we were actually off. So it's not like it would be. I know Kai specifically would always be like 2 or 3 yards off, like clearly off. These were close. So I'm okay with towing that line, and win some, you lose some. Like, I get that. The biggest issue for me is not whether or not we're offsides. It's the fact that even when we are offsides, we still can't score. That's the biggest issue.
It's we always say it in basketball, but you just want to see the ball go through the net. You just want to get that feeling of putting the ball in, right? And even when you can't do it, it's frustrating. My expectations for scoring are so low that I don't have the high of like, oh, are we gonna? Because I don't even let myself get there anymore. So it's kind of the state of the club right now, right? We're in buckle in mode. We're gonna take some shots mode and ride it out. I think 3 of us collectively are all on board with what's happening and sort of the personnel we have, and just the massive amount of changes. It's just hard to continue to tune in. It's hard to cheer when there's a lot of not good things happening. So I'll leave that open ended. It's not really a question, but
But we still watch because we are gluttons for punishment.
Will we be in a relegation battle? Not necessarily get relegated, but will we be in that mix?
I don't think so.
I think we will be right around, if not slightly better than what we finished last year.
Okay. All right. Today I just spent a lot of time thinking about that, of how do we improve where we, from where we are right now. And we've talked a lot about it. There's midfield issues. We don't have an out and out striker that can score consistently. Robert Sanchez has made a couple blunders through the year. So it's like we've touched on all of it, but besides letting the kids play and letting them develop and all that, kind of like we've talked about, I don't necessarily see where this gets tremendously better in a short amount of time. So, do we finish 10th, somewhere around there? Probably, but I think, at least through January, we're going to be bottom half of the table.
I think when we go through our buzzsaw, it's going to be ugly. We're probably going to be in relegation zone, but that's, through the half of the season. I think the positive that's going to come from that is the kids are going to watch well-oiled teams play, and they're going to see what they do. And then when they will watch that film back of what City does, how they played against us, how they exploited us, Arsenal, teams that know how to play, they're going to feel that, right? And they're going to experience that. And I think it's going to be teaching for them, and it's going to take them to a new level. I think part of the struggles are we played to our competition. I think our best game we played was against Liverpool, and we've played down since then, since the first match of the year. So I think they'll rise and fall to their competition, which isn't great. But I think once they start to play consistent good, then hopefully it'll instill some values. But Collins, to your point, there is no magic bullet here. There is no get rich quick scheme that we can take and it turns around and we look like a team that can contend. It's not happening. It's going to happen over weeks, over months, over grinding and figuring out, what our team's DNA is.
And the other thing is, so you said, we won't get tremendously good or anything like that. We can't get tremendously worse. Like, we're not playing that well, and we're still in close games, with the exception of the West Ham game. We're still in close 1-goal games. You know, if for example, if Raz's shot off the post last week, if that goes in, different ball game, right? That's 3 points. It can change that quickly. You know, the shots that weren't going in or that were saved or that did hit the woodwork, if those take a favorable bounce, it changes things drastically. So are we going to be fighting for the Premier League title this year? Not a shot in hell. Can we be in a better position, in a much better position than we are right now come January? I think so.
Yeah, I think when we play all these teams again, you're going to see better results. And that's how you grade this season, right? You see, how do we match up against West Ham again for the second round? How do we match up against Liverpool again for the second round? Do we make changes? Do we play better? Do we get wins where there were draws? Do we get draws when there were losses? Things like that. You'll start to look at the head to head on that matter. And I think if the back half looks a lot better than the front half, then it's a win, right? Then you can see some positive growth. It still might take us to 11th. It still might take us to 14th, but evaluate it at that point, right? Boys, that's kind of all the topics I had. I'll open it up to the group. Is there anything else you guys want to chat about before we sign off?
There's always next week.
This isn't closing thoughts yet, Matthew. Save it.
Too early for Poch-Out?
I think so. I think so, just because I think it's an impossible job right now. And it's everyone talks about the $1 billion figure, and I think the total, I'm just gonna take a ballpark guess, but 250 million of that is hurt or on the bench right now. Especially if you value Reece James at what Reece James's open market would be. With 250 million on the bench, it's not a very fair figure to throw out there yet. So I think Poch is doing fine, but he's doing with what he has.
Yeah, it's going to take time. We know that. Dealing with essentially half the squad that he thought he was going to have available to him. You know, he's round peg square hole in it, the best anybody can right now. So it'll come, just takes time.
I agree, but as I was telling you guys earlier, my reactionary heart was very much like leaving the station with Poch-Out, but rationally, I know we gotta give it time.
Yeah, the only thing that I've seen in the club so far that's bothered me is just some of the people that have left. Kind of sucks. Just some of our exits, and like it would have been cool to see Andre Santos develop with this team this year. I know it's probably for the better that he's out on loan, but it would have been cool to watch him. And Matt, your left back, I can't think of his name. I'm sorry.
Lewis Hall.
Thank you. It would have been cool to see him out there as well, just getting trots out there. I like seeing Leslie, come into the mix. He was not on my radar at all, and I've liked what I've seen out of him as a sub. So I hope Ian Maatson gets some additional looks as well. But I mean, we're not great. We're not horrible. We've got some work to do. Pieces are starting to become more known. So I think the Poch leash needs to be at least a full year. And then, like I said, evaluate how that progression happened over the year, starting with today and going forward.
Yeah, I like that. I like the giving it a year.
Well, with that, boys, thank you for tuning in to the pod. We did one poll, I think. But Collins didn't want to do the second poll because he gets yelled at by the ex Twitter world when we do man of the match polls after bad matches. So we didn't do a man of the match poll, even though it probably would have been Bobby Sanchez for me. But we did do a man of the get the fuck out of here poll. Do you want to go from there, Collins?
Yeah. So you had 4 options: referee, Emmy Martinez, Chelsea FC, or Pochettino. Matt, where'd you go?
I would go a tie between Emmy Martinez and the referee. I don't know who I hate more. For me, Emmy is a constant, but well, then again, so is the refereeing most Chelsea matches. So I think this one though, the referee, I think just barely ekes out Emmy.
I don't hate a lot of players in the league, and there's Emmy Martinez is the number one on my list that I just absolutely despise. There was talks about him coming to Chelsea, and I had to put away my hatred brain and try to think with my rational brain. It was very difficult to do, boys. I didn't want him to join the team because I don't like him, and so he put his antics on display as he always does, and I dislike him a lot. So the fact that he got 3 points today pisses me off. You can get the fuck out.
I was gonna say Chelsea FC as a whole, but Parker, you swung me. I'm gonna go Emmy Martinez. Unfortunately, it's basically just you and me who voted for Emmy Martinez. He came in last. Referee was first, Chelsea FC second, Poch third, then Emmy Martinez.
But after the poll, you can find us on social media. I believe we're on Facebook. I think we're on Twitter, Threads, if that's a thing, Google Hangouts, MySpace, all the things, all the things. You're listening to this, so you got this on a podcatcher or Spotify or Apple, whatever. If you're looking for a better one, we're on all of them. So just search Flag Down Pod, and we tend to come up. So with that, thank you for listening. Collins, do you have any closing thoughts, any words of wisdom for our listeners?
I don't want to steal Matt's thunder, so Matt, go ahead.
There's always next week.
I feel like it's constant in our fandom, right? We always have something to look forward to, even when it doesn't look great. So we'll cheers to that.
About Formula One. Sorry, my bad. I kind of zoned out for a little bit there. Sorry.
Formula One is almost officially done. It's not done, but it's all but done, considering Red Bull won the constructors today. So, which means Max won the constructors today. In hilarious fashion, including Sergio getting ping-ponged in the opening. So, or as my buddy said, bowling balled. I'll cheers to you boys, and there's always next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.